Greetings, pen pals. So we have our pens for today, which is a special 2021 edition that Lamy came out with. So this is Lamy reissuing the Lamy Safari, which came out in 1980. So I guess this is sort of a somewhat belated 40th anniversary edition of the Lamy Safari in two of the three original colors. The original colors were what they call Terra and Savannah Green, and the third color was a charcoal black, but they don't need to reissue the charcoal black this year because they already have that one available. So this is a special edition for 2021. The packaging, of course, is not the same. So here's what it came in a really cool box originally back in 1980. But the pen is basically unchanged for the most part. I do remember seeing this pen in stores in the early 80s, maybe not 1980, but maybe like 82, 83, 84, and thinking it was a cool pen, a very technical looking pen. But I don't remember what the price was. I suspect the price then in 1980 was about what the price is now. And I remember thinking that it was quite expensive for what it was in terms of a plastic fountain pen, etc. and so forth. So my main memory of the Lamy Safari back in the 80s was that I thought it was a bit overpriced. But there you go. But that was just at least it was my thought process back then. But you know, as part of the special edition, at least the retail that I got it at, I got these at Goulet Pens, is also throwing in these nice little matching pouches for free as part of the deal. They get about $30 a piece for these pens, not including the converter. Big pet peeve of mine. I think this pen for the price should actually come with the Lami Converter, but that's just me. They never do. I mean, it's always an extra cost item. The cases are pretty nice. They're fake leather. They do have a Lamy embossed on the back. And one thing that they do have, which I think is pretty neat, just as tiny little detail, is the stitching matches the color of the pouch, which I think is kind of cool. And they work for one pen, so you can fit one of these in here. It is a bit of a snug fit, but they do come in and out, etc. So it's fun. I don't think you'd want it to be sized any differently. One thing that I think would have been nice with these pouches is they should have maybe made the pouch with like a clip or something on the back, so you could kind of clip the pouch to a notebook or something like that. I don't know, just a thought. I guess maybe you could do this kind of thing where you. Does that work? No, it's too tight. That doesn't really work. No. So would have been nice if we made these with like a clip or something on the back and make them a little more useful. But they are nice. And the price was definitely right, and they certainly match the pens. So in terms of Lamy Safari pen itself, you're talking about a very, very generic Lamy Safari. Weighs in at 18 grams. That's including the converter and the ink. In terms of size, again, this is a very conventional sized pen. Here it is compared to a Pilot Metropolitan and a Lamy Safari. Amazingly enough, it's the same size. But we're talking about a pretty conventionally sized pen. In terms of features, the couple of things that set the Lamy Safari off, it's very notable for this ink window, which is really just a hole right in the side of the barrel, where you can either see the converter or the cartridge ink level. This clip is very polarizing. Either you like it or you don't. I personally think it's fine. It's very, very functional, big and broad, and it definitely works and gets the job done, but it's very big and it's a very specific style, and if you don't like that, that's kind of the way it is. It's got Lamy embossed on the side. The barrel of the pen has two flat sides that run most of the length of the barrel. On one of the flat sides, it does say Lamy embossed on the side. Very sort of cylindrical cap. terminating in this sort of plus sign. This looks like it might be a screw thing to unscrew the finial. It is not. That is meant to be a plus sign to distinguish among the different types of pens. So for example, here is a Lamy Safari Rollerball, and as you can see, that has a plain single slot. So the deal is, if you're feeling in your pocket, if you have two matching pens, you can feel which one's the fountain pen and which one is the rollerball. So that is why they do that. That's sort of like a coding mechanism, if you will. But that's a very distinctive feature of the Safari as well. Also, this sort of circular indentation in the bottom has come to be very, very synonymous with Lamy Safaris. It's a pull to uncap pen. It has the triangular grip, so you will be these facets enforce this triangular grip. Again, some people, it's somewhat polarizing. Some people are fine with it, some people don't, or not. Again, it does serve very often as a student type pen or an entry-level pen, so it's meant to enforce good sort of writing technique and enforce that tripod grip. That's why it is the way it is. Normal Lamy nibs, these happen to be the blackened steel ones. Sometimes they have them in regular shiny stainless. This one is in medium, and the one on the Terra pen is in extra fine. We'll see the difference in the writing sample in a bit. Lamy nibs are pretty much all interchangeable, and you can kind of pull them right off. If you want to pull off a Lamy nib, a little tip is make sure the pen's clean and dry. Put a little piece of adhesive tape on the nib, smooth it on there, and then just kind of yank it right off, and it'll come right off. The first time might be a little tougher, but the nibs really do slide off quite easily, and can easily be swapped and interchanged as well. Now, in terms of the section, it unscrews. This thing looks like a rubber. This thing looks like a rubber O-ring. It is not. It's a piece of hard plastic that really is basically just a piece of trim. I guess it might absorb a little bit and keep the barrel from cracking if you try to over tighten it, but it doesn't really serve the function like an O-ring would. Now, the Lami Converters come in a couple of different varieties. The normal one, the Z28, which is the one that goes with the Safari, has a red handle, and it has these little nubs that click into that little slot on the side there to sort of definitively click in place, which is pretty nice. This cutout here on the side is meant to line up with that ink window. Apparently, there are knockoffs of the Lamy Safari floating around. Counterfeit, it's actually. There are plenty of knockoffs, but I mean ones that are genuinely counterfeit. And apparently one way to tell the counterfeits from the real ones is very often the counterfeits have a very hard time getting, when you have the pen all the way tightened, getting that to line up properly, so you just see a completely clear view through the ink window. So apparently one way to tell the counterfeits from the real ones is from that feature. But that is pretty much it for a Lamy Safari. It's a very sort of basic, very functional sort of fountain pen. Very, very popular. I have quite a few of them. I like them in general. They tend to write well. The Lamy nibs are good functioning nibs, and they write well. I think this was a nice reissue. I particularly think throwing in these cases was definitely a good deal, certainly. And these are two colors that I kind of like. And the thing I like about these colors is, if you think about 1980, to me, these are very much evocative of the late 70s, early 80s in terms of colors that were popular. So I think these are very good representations of the time period. So I'm kind of happy they did these colors. But as we always say, pens were meant to write. And of course, you want to see how these pens write. And I'm going to show you that right now. All right, first up is the Lamy Safari. And this one is in Savannah Green. And this is a medium steel nib. So writes well. Lamy's are very, very predictable, sort of average wetness, etc. So it's a very, very predictable writing pen. No surprises here at all. Let's compare it with the other one, which is a completely different size nib. So this is the Lamy Safari. And this one is in Terra. And this has a extra fine steel nib. So this difference between extra fine and medium is probably not as much as I would have expected. This is a sort of a German extra fine, which is quite broad for an extra fine. I'd say this is fair as a medium. I would say this is probably I would classify this as a fine, not really much of an extra fine, but that is what it is. So that's what Lamy calls an extra fine, which is fine. So there you go. That is how these guys write. So that's pretty much all we have to say about these Lamy Safaris for today. Like I said, this is our reissue of our 1980 version Lamy Safaris with the fancy cases and all that. Let's talk about these inks now for a minute, though, shall we? All right, first up is an ink from J. Herbin, which I thought matched this pen quite well. So this is J. Herbin Vert Olive. So it's olive green, which again I think does match this pen pretty nicely. Here's what the swatch looks like for this. Nothing super surprising here. You get a little bit of color variation, etc., but it's basically a straight up olive green, which again I just think looks pretty good, and I think does match this pen pretty well. It's a little bit on the light side, so depending on what you're going to be using it for, you may want to take that into consideration. So it is definitely a lighter color ink. But I think it looks nice, and again, is definitely that olive color, if that's the color you want. Olive avocado, you could also make the case for a little bit as well. So that is that one. Let's take a look at the other one while we're at it. And this one actually is an ink from Lamy that I talked about a couple of years ago, I think. So this ink is Lamy, they call it bronze. So this is Lamy Bronze. This to me is orange. I always said if you want a bronze ink, go get Diamine Ancient Copper. That is a bronze ink. So here's what the color card looks like for this ink. I mean, this to me is nothing but orange. Nice orange. It's a very nice shade of orange. I think it goes pretty well with this pen, etc. But for sure, it is an orange ink with some nice color variation going on, etc. So we have Lamy Bronze. I'm going to put bronze in quotes. But to me, this is definitely a orange ink. One nice thing about Lamy inks is they come in kind of an interesting and unusual bottle. So it's a short, flat bottle with an inkwell kind of thing on the top. But what's really neat is, and this is completely unique to Lamy inks, it comes with a spool of blotter paper wound around the bottle. Now, I don't use this very much, but I just think it's a cool little feature. It looks nice on the desk, and it's quite practical, etc. But that is a cool feature of all Lamy inks, or most of them anyway, the standard color inks as far as that goes. So there we go. We've got J. Herbin Vert Olive. We got Lamy Bronze. Pretty nice. And what else would be pretty nice if you folks could all please like, comment, share, and subscribe. That would all be very much appreciated. I think we'll pretty much call it a wrap on this video. As always, I hope you enjoyed watching it, because I sure enjoyed making it. As always, until we see each other again, have a great day. Bye-bye.